everybody. My name is Keely Spring. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. And this is my podcast, Therapeutically Aligned, where I interview clinicians all across the country about the amazing work that they do. To that end, today I have with me Sarah. Sarah and I are just meeting one another and just getting to know each other. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about her practice and the work that she does. To that end, I'm going to turn the conversation over to you, Sarah, in just a second here to introduce yourself, your niche, the populations you work with, and kind of any of that basic information that people might want to know about your practice.
Sure, yeah. Hi, Keely. Thank you for having me today. I am also an LMFT and licensed in the state of California. I'm currently only in virtual space, but ideally would like to get into in person as well, hopefully in the near future. I see individuals and couples that mostly want to focus on anxiety, any stage of parenting, major life transitions, substance use, particularly in the harm reduction arena, and really anybody that just wants to understand a little bit more about sort of their internal world and dynamics or beliefs and thoughts that aren't serving them anymore. And one other thing that I'll mention is that I previously worked at both Kaiser and UCSF's Alliance Health Project, and I saw individuals there, and I did a lot of group work there. And that's one element of my practice that I really hope to reintroduce someday. It was something that I loved and love. So I would hope to support that, especially in person, but maybe virtually in the future as well.
Group work can be really powerful. Are there certain areas that you previously did those groups around or, certain topics?
Yes, yeah. So most of my focus when I was in the clinic setting was on substance use, whether it be abstinence or harm reduction at the time. And I saw I ran some parent groups for, especially for parents with teens who wanted to learn to communicate and connect more efficiently or better with their kids. And I also ran some women's groups as well and loved all of them.
Yeah. And for those who might be interested, I mean, I think that the title itself lends itself to knowing what it is, but what would be a major life transition for somebody? What kind of
Yeah,
might
that's
apply?
a great question. Um, so becoming a parent is one that I see a lot. Getting married, considering getting married, getting divorced, considering getting divorced. I also see a lot of people who are considering career changes or major moves. I've seen a few people that have moved out of state, and I think that is the majority of it. I'd say also grief
Yeah.
comes into the major life transitions a lot. It's kind of a big umbrella, but those are the ones that I see most often.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I don't know that I've ever asked anybody to clarify that. I think
It's a
that's
great question.
yeah, a big piece of this. So for the audience, could you just explain the harm reduction model?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, if the way that I look at it is that harm reduction is sort of an umbrella.
Yes.
Abstinence can very much be a part of your harm reduction work, but the way that harm reduction functions for me is that when we look at a behavior, if there's something that is causing consequence in your life, whether it be in your relationships, in your work, in your sort of personal functioning, we look at those consequences and talk about how they can be reduced, whether it be with a certain sort of behavior, whether it be a thought pattern, whether it be an interaction pattern, and try and reduce the harm, so to speak, from those consequences and understanding those consequences.
Mhm. Yeah, so the interventions could be a number of different things based on what the person is presenting.
Yeah, and I don't even I my harm reduction experience is really around substance use, but I use it in my work in general. I think it's a really helpful tool.
I agree. I agree. I think for the audience purpose, harm reduction, I think, is kind of a answer in some ways to the AA traditional kind of model of kind of came out of that perspective, is my understanding of harm reduction, of this idea that you could find ways to still mitigate the harm and not have to
Yes.
do the steps of AA necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we may talk more about it, but outside of the abstinence model or the sort of big book way of doing things, it's just a little less sort of cookie cutter. I think there's like a wider spectrum of ways to function from a harm reduction perspective, though abstinence and big book works for a lot of people as well. So it's all encompassed in my opinion.
For sure. I totally agree. Okay, Sarah, would you mind sharing how did you decide to go to this path? What was your journey to licensure? How did you decide to be this?
Yeah, I've been asked this question a lot, and I still don't have like the most concise answer, but I think really where I have kind of come to for this is that when I was a teenager, I was really struggling, and my parents were sort of lost in what to do and how to support me. So they sent me to therapy, and he was like not the right match for me. And I don't think like as I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life, I really wanted to sort of repair what that experience was like for myself. And originally I thought I would do it. I wanted to be the person I had needed in that moment and in that time of my life. And
Mhm.
originally I thought I was going to teach. I thought that working with kids was going to be the way to do it. And I did. I did kids sort of 0 to 5 or 0 to 8 for a while. Um, and I realized very quickly that the family dynamic was so much more important than working with the kids specifically. And this psychological sort of functional aspect was more important to me than the teaching. Teaching is very important. Anybody listening, teachers, thank you.
Agree.
Um, but for me, I really wanted to go more of the sort of therapeutic route with it. And so I went to get my degree and I started out in a teen and family program and sort of built on my practice from there.
hmm Yeah, and I would say that therapy actually does include a lot of psychoeducation and
Mm-hmm.
teaching of tools and tips, but also kind of where these theories come from or, kind of how they can be applied.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining you get a little bit of that, teaching still.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and either way, like when I was teaching, it felt like there was a lot of ways to sort of support the kids and parents and families in general emotionally and developmentally. And so there's a lot of overlap, I think, in the two careers, but therapy was really the right fit for me.
So what do you like about being a clinician?
That's such, that's such a good and big question. There's so much that I like about being a clinician. I think that one view that I hold in general is that it's sort of amazing that humans can have any like meaningful interaction with each other because we have so many different like histories and thoughts and feelings, and the way that I say something might be interpreted so differently by 20 different people. And um, getting to know somebody on such an intimate and um, sort of detailed level, it's such a human and experience. There's such a connection to it. And the way that I do therapy, I think, is very collaborative. I know that word is like used a lot in the therapeutic world, but I really do want to hear like, what are your thoughts, opinions, and disagree with me, right? Like, let's have a discussion about it. I love that aspect of it. So it's exciting to interact with somebody, multiple people on a day to day basis, and um, have it be so meaningful, especially in such like a fast paced sort of, you know, immediate satisfaction world.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I can resonate with that
Mm-hmm.
very, very much. Okay, so with the population that you work with, what are some of the modalities or kind of therapeutic treatments that you draw from?
So when I went to grad school, the focus was cognitive behavioral therapy. So it was pretty purely CBT. And I think that um, I ended up utilizing a lot of that. So CBT, DBT, ACT were sort of the foundation of the work that I used. And then um, I built on theories from there in my own work as I sort of went out into the world outside of grad school. And so I really work a lot in addition to those in from a humanistic perspective, very person-centered therapy, strengths-based. A lot of what I was saying about what I love so much about the work is like what type of employee are you? What makes you a good friend? What makes you, a strong athlete? Whatever it is that like we can draw from. Um, so strengths-based work And family systems certainly has a big role, especially because I started out in a family program. But I think that the role that we played in our families and generationally, what that looked like even before our time, um, is huge. So I think that those are the main components in addition to a mindfulness or somatic
Uh-huh.
sort of, sprinkle of the mind body, because a lot of my clients, especially the more anxious ones, as am I, the body tends to separate from the brain a lot, and having that disconnect, it's really hard to know something objectively but not convince your body that that's true. And so really reconnecting the two together so that they can align a little more in the work.
Hmm. Yeah, I practice somatically as well with people, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's very powerful because it is so experiential of the moment and
Mm-hmm.
really kind of switching the way that the body is feeling things. And sometimes people are just tuned off from that
Yeah.
body connection, right?
Yeah.
So getting them back into it. You spoke a little bit to this, but it hasn't come up in any other interview. Would you mind sharing a little bit the family systems model? Like, why is that important? I think again you touched a little bit upon it, but if you could kind of elaborate a little bit more for the audience.
Yeah. I mean, in my work, I think with family systems, there are certain dynamics that tend to play out in patterns. There may be something called the identified patient, right? The IP, and that may be you, your sibling, your parent, but sort of all the attention, for example, goes on to that one person. And what was it like for you growing up, in that role, outside of that role, being able to recognize or develop insight around that? I think that in general, um, certain families hold certain values and create certain homeostasis, right? Orbital function. And as we grow, age, develop, and become adults, the orbit, the gravitational pull may shift with major life changes or just personal preferences. And that is jarring for a lot of people in their family system and in their life in general. So I think the family systems work really helps sort of pull everybody back together with the new gravitational pull rather than trying to reset the original orbit,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
helpful for people because so many times I notice that we're clinically we talk this language and I don't know that everybody always understands. Like generally you could understand maybe a family system, but what does that actually mean in
Right.
practice? So appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, and I like the question because I think that I probably approach it differently than maybe another clinician may approach it. So, but yeah, that's my sort of
Yeah,
general outlook.
it totally resonates for how I view it as well. So
Mm-hmm.
appreciate
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
it. Okay, so what would a typical session look like for you? Is it more organic or is it a little bit more kind of, specific tool or pattern or I don't know how I want to say that.
Yeah. Um, yes. So I think so I I have an intake form, but really my focus is before I meet with somebody is like what are the risks. So I look at what their anxiety may be, what their level of depression may be from sort of the assessments. The PHQ-9, for example,
Mhm.
is an assessment that we may do, and barring any sort of uh, concerns, medical concerns, psychological concerns, high risk behaviors, things like that, I sort of just get started. I really, really like to focus on rapport and connection. It's not going to work in a therapeutic setting if you don't feel like I am the person for you, and really giving the client the initial space to just feel comfortable, whatever that looks like. So, talking about what are your expectations? Like, how are you feeling seeing me here? A lot of my clients are new to therapy. It's their first time in therapy, which I really love. I also do a lot of repair work. So, clients that might not have had an excellent initial experience in therapy. So, talking about fears, concerns, excitement, goals, things like that. And I also like to work from sort of the present backwards. So
Mm.
I'm not going to come in and be like, "Tell me about your childhood," unless that's what you want. But that will come up eventually, like in that family system sort of work. But it's got to be relevant to what the reason you're coming to see me is.
Yeah.
So it's really like, let's talk about what's going on now, and what you want to see change now, and what that might look like for you in our work.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah, yeah. And I like humor. I like, I use a lot of the same phrases over and over again. So like, tell me how your last week has been, or tell me about your last 2 weeks.
Mhm.
It's sort of always, that's why I say yes, because there's some consistency and routine, and it's
Sure.
nice to sit down in a chair and I think know what to expect, but it can go sort of any which way.
Yeah. One of my go-tos is always I'll notice somebody had a reaction to something and I'll say, I think we hit a nerve there. What's the nerve?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I know I'm probably repeating myself to them, but it gives them the space to then, explore. So I think what you're talking about is it's really kind of meeting people where they're at, but
Mm-hmm.
that key piece, which I think is so powerful, which you were speaking to, is has to be a good fit. Has to be
Yeah.
somebody you trust, and it takes time to develop that. And I think sometimes people, at least in my practice, they'll want to come in and say like, "Oh, let's just talk about that," and it's like we also you need to trust that you can trust me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when I do consults, I really encourage folks to talk to more than one person,
Yes.
see who you feel most comfortable with. The interventions, the person that knows the most isn't necessarily going to be the best fit. It's who you feel most comfortable talking to.
Yes.
And ultimately, hopefully trusting.
Yes.
Uh, so, that is the most important part, I think, of getting to know someone initially.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Okay, next question. Is there something that surprises you still about therapy and being a therapist?
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'm surprised all the time. I think, um, I grew up in a world that didn't have a lot of like internet, social media that was, very much new when I was growing up. It was certainly not a part of my younger childhood. And I think that what I'm really seeing is this impact now with folks with sort of the immediate access to information, whether it be news or social media or AI, and the not inability, but maybe lack of trust of oneself, because there's all of these alternative options or opinions or ideas. And so even if you have this gut reaction, there's a million voices in your head telling you why that might not be, true, or what's fact and what's feeling. Um, and so I'm always surprised at how much insight my clients have without knowing
Yeah.
that they have insight, and, being able to say, like, can we sit with what you just said to me, and talk about what the difficulty is in hearing your own voice, or like, is it because it's too quiet? Is it because it doesn't hold as much value? And why that might be. So that always surprises me in being able to reflect to my clients how much they know themselves more than I think they give themselves credit for. And also, one of my professors used to say, this is a different topic, um, that it is invaluable and really an important part of our jobs to do your own work, and um, how meaningful that has remained. So, not only trainings and, continued education units, things like that, but going to therapy myself and seeing a therapist myself, and having consults with other clinicians, and really doing my own work really surprises me at how meaningful and important that was. I think when I was in grad school, I didn't understand that it wasn't going to be this sort of like box I can check, like therapist now, but it's a really like, it's always growing and morphing and changing. And that's something that I love, but wasn't totally prepared for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that last one comes up too. Sometimes because before you were talking about repair work with people that may have gone to somebody who was not a right fit or maybe did some
Yeah.
more damage than helping. And I think that that piece kind of comes up in that context a little bit of I've noticed that sometimes when people tell me stories about a previous therapist, I'll think, oh, that therapist just didn't do their work. Like they didn't do
Mm-hmm.
their own self work because they're like, oh, my therapist just talked about themselves the whole time, or those kinds
Right.
of things that
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
they didn't do the work.
Yeah. And I really like love surrounding myself with people that will hear what I have to say and then call me on it,
Yeah.
whether it be, a colleague or my own therapist or whoever it is, because that's that's what I want in my own work. And that's what I think I can provide gently and therapeutically in my work with my clients.
Yes. Yeah, I like to say, similarly to what you're saying, like if I don't tell you, who will? So
Yeah.
I want the same in return.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that phrase. I'm taking that.
Please do. Um, okay, is there anything that you wish people knew or understood about therapy?
Yeah. I can't read your mind. That's one.
That's a good
Uh,
one.
I know. I think that a lot of people come to therapy or consider therapy or have a passing thought about therapy and think that they need to have a problem and that it needs to be like a fairly big problem. So, to engage in therapy, you don't need a problem. You don't need to be a problem. You don't need to have a concern. Like you can say, my life is excellent the way that it is right now, and still come into therapy and gain a lot from the discussion that you can have with a therapist that can help enhance, understand. Um, and I think there's always just more to know. It doesn't need to be about change all the time, but growth is a type of change, and that can be however big or small.
Hmm. Yeah, love it. Okay, final question in this clinical area. Do you have a tool that we could share with the audience that's something accessible that people could use?
Yeah, well, it, I can try. I don't know. It definitely works with a lot of my clients, but I and there's a couple things that I do that I think is like more unique to my practice. So one, I'm a very visual learner,
Mhm.
and I always have my little whiteboard, and I
Oh, yeah.
show my little uh like images or thoughts or how I look at things. And I think the reason I bring this up is because one image I draw is about how um, when you go to therapy and you want to address something or talk about something or learn about something, doing so doesn't require these like grand gestures, this like sweeping life change, and these small, very subtle, shifts in your life can make these real relief happen. Um, so that's one thing, but the the other thing that comes to mind is that I have a lot of mantras that I use in my work. So I'm a big fan of like, it's not a problem until it's a problem. Uh, what's the other one? Expectations or premeditated disappointment is one.
Wow.
Uh, progress is not linear, things like that.
Uh-huh.
And I tend to use those on repeat, which is, very cognitive behavioral because it eventually
Mm.
sinks in. But I also have it reflected a lot back to me. So mantras in general, I think, are a tool that I use all the time.
Yeah, I love a good mantra. They're
Mm-hmm.
definitely useful. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, the question that sometimes comes up, and maybe you could speak to this when I can share what I would say, but I would love to hear more about what you would say. And this
Yeah.
is that people will say, do I use them proactively or reactively to situations? So what would you
Mm-hmm.
say to that?
Yes. I think I think it depends. I mean, I remember hearing a million times it depends, and I thought I don't want to hear it depends. But it does depend. I think that um proactively is really wonderful if you are aware and of what is coming and what you are needing in the moment. Reactively is wonderful because to me, if you are able to engage with a mantra in the moment, then it's not reactive, it's responsive, and you're really able to sort of give yourself the grace and space to recognize, have that awareness.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
curious what your answer is.
It's pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
Totally.
Did I get it right?
No, it wasn't right or wrong, but
No,
I
no, I know.
totally, yeah, I 100% resonate with that. That's exactly what I say to people. But I like the response, um,
Mm-hmm.
instead of reactive, because reactive feels heavier in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. That's all
Yeah.
for clinical. Are you ready
Okay.
for what I'm calling the being seen questionnaire, which we get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. Yeah.
This one,
Maybe, I think so.
yeah, this one always a little feels promise it's not painful.
Okay,
They're high
okay,
level.
okay.
Okay, so what is something that's making you happy right now?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, summer is making me very happy right now. I'm a huge warm weather fan. I have two little boys, and summer, they're super active. So playing with water outside, summertime, that makes me really happy right now.
Huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, love it. Okay, what's your favorite app?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, it does, I think Spotify,
Oh,
does that count? Can I say Spotify?
yeah, please.
Um,
This will be on
I,
Spotify, so
oh, good.
little plug.
Not, yeah, uh, not sponsored, but it's
Yes,
true.
very, very much.
Yeah, I listen to music or podcasts all day. Whether like lots of different genres and feelings and whatever I'm sort of vibing with in the moment. So I think I use that the most.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, beach or mountains?
Oh, beach, beach. That was the easiest one.
Okay, what is one thing movies never get right?
What therapy actually looks like.
Yeah,
I, yeah,
true.
I'd say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, I'm always amazed by the plethora of ones that have therapists in them that often there's one or two that I'll watch, but like often I will just avoid them because I'm like I'm just gonna get irritated with how they present the therapist.
100%. My people love to recommend therapy shows to
Yes.
me, and I, nod and smile, or I'll say it's just I can't. It's so it. I just watch like this. I'm like, that's not how it's done.
Me as well. Okay, what's the best way to relax?
Oh, um, I mean, outdoors. I think outdoors. My mind went to all of these like different places that I would be outdoors, which is the long pause. So with a beverage of your choice, surrounded by the people that you love, with the exact right amount of socialization or noise that you can handle in that moment, and hopefully some warm or cool air. For me, it would be warm in like a hammock or something.
Oh,
That's the best way to relax.
that sounds lovely.
Not always accessible, but that is
True,
ideal.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah. Are you in the Bay Area?
I am.
Yeah, maybe this weekend will be a
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be
opportunity
so
for some
nice.
sun. Okay, what would be a dream trip location for you? Anywhere you want to go?
Yeah, there are tons of places I want to go. I think that I'm a big fan of food, and I think that my next trip that I would love to do is Italy. If I could make it happen at some point, I would love to go to Italy. Um, I'd love to ride in a gondola and eat delicious food, and if I get the right season, be outdoors all the time. And I love to walk, so plenty of walking to be done. So that's that's my answer today.
Check with you maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, I man, I that it's that no feeling is final. I think that I got stuck in so many times thinking that this decision or this feeling or time of life was going to be it and I would never recover from it. And doing therapy and being a therapist has really taught me that you can like there's momentum for everything. And I have to tell myself that still. So my adult self still would tell my younger self that, even though it's something that I'm working with now. But yeah, no feeling is final, and that it's chances are it's going to be just fine.
That's a great answer. Okay, probably another easy one, but out of the four seasons, which one's your favorite?
So of course the obvious is summer, but I actually think fall is, because fall I just like I love a big sweater. I love wearing clothes that make me feel like I'm as close to still in bed as possible. So like a big chunky sweater, you know, slippers, whatever that is. Um, so I think my favorite season actually is fall, even though I love summer. I love the colors of fall and I love the clothes of fall.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we're right in between the two right now. So
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit of both.
exactly.
Okay, so what would be the worst superhero power to have?
I love this question. I wish I had more time to prepare this one because I'm like, I have to not pause for too long. Mind reading. I think
Yeah.
mind reading. I don't, another one of my mantras is what they think of me is none of my business.
Mm,
And uh, that stands true. I would not want to be able to mind read anyone.
yeah. I've said this to other clinicians, but that's the number one response so far.
Is
There's a
it?
couple of other ones, like about touch, or like a
Mm-hmm.
couple people said the Hulk, becoming this, like, which would suck too.
Yeah, yeah,
But mind reading, I think there's something that as therapists are all onto of like that.
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Okay, what's an animal that resonates for you?
I think about this more than I'd like to admit, actually. So I think that my a lot of people describe me as like a fairly social cat in a
Ah,
lot of ways, but I resonate a lot with like little sandpipers. They're, a
like
little,
the birds?
those tiny little birds that you see on like the shoreline and they're always kind of like running up and down, but there's always in a group, they're
Uh-huh.
always together, but like they're also kind of minding their own business and they're always in a little bit of a hurry, but they're enjoying their time also on the beach. Like I just see them and I think I feel like there's a connection there. So I'm gonna go somewhere between those two.
I love it. I love it. That's great. That's a great description. Okay, so here's our final question. When you look
Mm-hmm.
back at your life, what will you hope you'd be able to say about it?
I really just want the people that I love to know how much I love them and to feel loved and cared for. Like when I'm gone, I just want my legacy to be warmth.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, since we talked manja, I love that answer. One of mine that I use in my personal life is leave them with joy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another perfectly said, repeatable sentence that I probably will also take. I
Yeah.
I,
Please
I
take it on.
how you make other people feel is so important. I mean, it's a hard balance because I think that if we get back into therapy, sometimes we lose ourselves in trying to make other people feel certain ways. But if you can care for yourself and do so with warmth and love for others, that's the legacy that I want to leave.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sarah. You are officially
Yeah.
queen.
I love those questions. I'm gonna go think about all of my like second and third
Yeah,
best
just
answers. Ask all the people I know. Yeah.
love it. So I appreciate you taking the time. Was there anything that we didn't discuss that you would like the audience to know?
Um, I don't think so. I think, that no, I think that there's always more to learn, and that is included in what therapy is or about. And, there's no harm in trying 1, 2 sessions, see how it goes for you. I think that, I could get right back into all of the other types of things that I would discuss in session, but I would just encourage giving it a shot.
Yeah, great answer. So for anybody listening or watching, I will include Sarah's information so you can reach out if you'd like to talk to her more and discuss some more with her. And other than that, thank you again, Sarah. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Keely. This was fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.